Hey guys, I welcome you all on the course on Python programming tutorial for beginners. This series of video will make you a Python programmer, so please watch all videos. Please do like and subscribe the channel and also share this channel to your friends and family. I'm going to give you a brief introduction about Python. So let's get started. First of all, what is Python? Python is a high-level dynamically timed programming language, and Python support with multiple programming paradigms, including object-oriented, imperative functional, and procedural styles. Python is interpreted language. What do we mean by interpreted language? To understand this concept, we need to understand the difference between the compiled languages and the interpreted languages. Some languages like C and C++ or Java are all translated by running the source code through a tool called compiler. This compiler as source code results in a very efficient byte code that can be executed any number of times. Now, interpreted languages like Python, in contrast, must be parsed, interpreted, and executed each time the program is run, thereby adding the cost of running the program in great manner. So a compiled language takes the entire program as a single input and converts it into machine code or byte code, which is stored in a file called a binary file. On the other hand, interpreted languages like Python takes the single instruction as a single input and execute that instruction. Now, compiled languages run faster because compiling is done before the execution. On the other hand, interpreted programs run slower because compilation and execution takes place simultaneously. In case of Python, even though it's interpreted language, but it's really fast. Now, Python supports dynamic data types, and to understand this we need to understand the difference between statically timed programming languages and dynamically timed programming languages. Statically timed programming languages do type checking and the compile time as opposed to the real time. Dynamically timed programming languages do type checking at runtime as opposed to compile time. So let's say you declare a variable x which is equal to 9 in Python. Then Python will do its type checking at runtime, whether it's in integer or string or double value. All this checking will be done at runtime. Now, Python is independent of platforms, which means that Python is a cross-platform programming language. That means you can run your Python program on Windows, Linux, Mac, or on any other Unix operating system. Now, Python focuses on faster development time. Python has a very natural style to it which makes it easy to read and understand. We don't use semicolons or braces in Python coding, and that means faster development time, especially when you are doing some prototyping work. Python is a highly readable language and has a keen visual layout. So if a developer writes a very efficient Python program, it's like reading English language. Python have higher level internal object data types and have automatic memory management. And that last, Python is free and open source, which means that you don't need to pay anything to start learning by Python. Now let's talk about some history about Python. Python was conceived in the late 1980s and its implementation began in December 1989 by a developer called Guido van Rossum in Netherlands as a successor of a programming language called EBC. Now, Guido van Rossum logged at Google from 2005 to December 2012, where he spent half of his time in the development of Python programming language, and nowadays he found working in a company called Dropbox, and from there, despite a name come from Rossum, chose the name Python since he was a big fan of Monty Python's Flying Circus. Python was first publicly released in February 1991, and python.org, which is the official website of Python, was released in that time period between 1996 and 1997. In the year 2001, the Python Software Foundation was created, and Rossum remained the principal author of Python. His continuing central role of Python development is reflected in that title given to him by Python community, which is Benevolent Director of Life. A Benevolent Director of Lives is a title given to a small number of open source software development leaders. typically the project founders who retain the final say in the dispute or arguments within the community. Now why Python? Because Python is fun to use scripting language, and as I said, Python is a multi-paradigm programming language which supports object-oriented imperative functional programming and procedural styles. That means it's highly recommended for educational purpose. Majority of educational institutes use Python as the programming language which they teach to their students. And it is the first choice of educational institutes because it's very easy to learn and it is run on any platform. Now Python is very powerful, scalable and very easy to maintain, a programming language which enables high productivity, and it has lots of inbuilt libraries which are useful to developer. Python is also used as a glue language which acts as an interactive front end for the languages like C and C++. Therefore, when you develop programming code in Python, it reduces the development time, it reduces the code size, and it is easy to learn and use as a developer. It is easy to understand codes. It is easy to do projects in Python, and it's easy to extend to other languages if you are using Python. Python is a general-purpose programming language. It is used in many web development frameworks. For example, Django and Flask, which are very popular for web development. Python is also widely used in scientific computing, data mining and machine learning, and continued growth and demand for machine learning developers are driving the popularity of Python, and Python is used as our scripting language. That means if you are doing prototyping, it's really efficient to use Python. Python is also used in the development of graphical user interfaces, embedded applications and DevOps tools, and Python is really easy to learn on. It's used for educational purposes as the first programming language for teaching programming. Now the question arises, which version of Python should you learn, Python 3 or Python 2? So I would recommend Python 3 since it's more modern and it is a more popular option. This course of Python will be teaching in Python 3, so this was a brief introduction about Python. Next video will be on how to install Python in your computer and to test whether Python installation is completed successfully. Stay tuned for next video. Please like and subscribe the video. It will help me a lot to continue making such video.